Ja. Quinn had quickly shaken off the shock and turned to run. Nora was faster. She stepped in front of him and blocked his way, grabbing his arm. "Why are you running away?" Quinn cowered away from her and cried, "Let me go." Pete stared at them in shocked silence. He'd thought that his mummy was a very gentle person. After all, she was always sleeping. But when they got home last night, she had been so determined to confirm that he was her son. It had been a traumatic night for all of them, but the two of them had bonded. Now, he was seeing a new, fiercely protective side to her. She was like a treasure chest filled with surprise after surprise. Nora pinched Quinn's arm hard for a few more moments before she finally let him go. She was furious. The children couldn't possibly have understood her pain, but as her teacher, Quinn should have known better. How could he have helped them keep such an important secret from her? A half-hour later, Justin sent Cherry over. When her daughter arrived, Nora's eyes brimmed with tears as she stared at the two identical faces. A feeling of contentment washed over her. Quinn circled around them. It's rare for fraternal twins to look so similar to each other. "Sleepyhead, if you're done staring at them, the kids and I will start practice." Nora just nodded. After Cherry went off to watch Quinn and Pete practice martial arts, Nora picked up her cell phone and called her aunt. After explaining everything that had happened, she timidly asked, "What do you think Justin will do if I run off with both kids?" Her aunt's response was heartfelt. "Don't even think about it. He isn't just the head of the Hunt family. That man isn't one to be messed with. Even if you manage to escape, you'll be caught sooner or later." Nora leaned back in the recliner in the waiting room. "What should I do then? Do I pay him to get my son back? He's richer than you. Then, do I challenge him to a fight? Whoever wins gets the child? He's stronger than you. Is there anything I'm better at than him?" Her aunt thought for a while. Suddenly she laughed and said, "You're better at sleeping. Why don't you conquer him in bed?" Nora was speechless for a moment. Then her aunt joked, "Maybe you can get him to fall in love with you. The two of you can just stay together." She couldn't deny that it was an interesting thought, but Nora was decisive in her reply. "There's too much to lose by doing that." "What would you lose? He's handsome and successful. You two would make a fantastic couple." Nora sighed and replied, "I want my son back, but if I get together with Justin, not only will I risk losing my daughter to him, I'll risk losing myself." After chatting a bit more with her aunt, Nora hung up. Thinking about it some more, she decided that it might be better to have a long talk with Justin. Having spent time with him, she conceded that he wasn't as unreasonable as he was rumoured to be. After giving Quinn and the children a heads up, she headed over to the hospital. Justin and his younger brother were standing in a hallway at the hospital. Nora was walking toward them, but neither of them had seen her yet. Howard would be handling family matters on behalf of his grandfather at the family home the next day. Justin wanted Chester to keep Pete company while they were there. Chester proudly promised, "No problem. I'll watch over him and make sure no one bullies him." The huge secret that he was hiding from his older brother was constantly on his mind. He let out a guilty cough and asked, "Can I ask you something, Justin?" Justin was as reticent as ever. "Go ahead." Chester scratched his head. "If Pete's biological mother were standing right here in front of you, what would you do?" Nora had just approached close enough to hear the question. Justin's tone turned vicious. "I would ruin her." A chill ran down her spine. The darkness in his eyes and the hostility surrounding him like an oppressive cloud made her turn cold. She realized that this was a clear example of what her aunt meant when she said the man wasn't to be messed with. Chester stared at his brother in shock. What did this woman do to make you hate her so much? Justin pressed his lips together, forming a thin, tight line. He clearly wasn't willing to talk about it. Nora stepped back quietly and escaped around the corner before the two men noticed her. She rushed down the stairs, got back into her car, and drove away from the hospital as quickly as she could. As she drove, she frowned in concern. She had no idea what kind of dispute Justin thought they could have had to make him harbour such hatred toward her. Was it related to my pregnancy back then? To how I got pregnant somehow? None of it makes any sense. She decided if she couldn't figure it out, the best thing was to keep hiding it from him for now. She had to stay in New York for a while longer anyway. Nora stopped by the herbal store and pharmacy to pick up the pills and topical ointments she had ordered the day before. As the pharmacist handed over the package, he asked, "Do you have a name for those pills? They smell so refreshing." Nora smiled and answered, "They're called Carefree Pills." Later that afternoon, before Justin could beat her to it, she picked up Cherry from Quinn's to take her back to the Andersons' place. Sheena was at the house again. Her expression was grave and drawn. Even her business suit and nice makeup couldn't hide her fatigue. A pale Melissa asked, "What do we do, Sheena?" The Andersons had always been the leaders of the pharmaceutical industry. The herbal medicines that they made had excellent effects, and the recipes were passed down from generation to generation. Nora's grandfather had taught her mother everything he knew and praised her as a pharmacology genius. Unfortunately, Simon hadn't taken up the mantle, and Sheena had only learned a little of the trade. When Nora's mother ran away from home, it had caused a gradual decline in the standing of their family. Sheena had stepped forward to ensure and maintain the pharmaceutical factory's operation. Although her bark was generally worse than her bite, her love for her sister had turned to hate. By association, she resented Nora. Sheena's back was ramrod straight as she ranted. "These awful people over at Idealian are shameless. How dare they hire an expert to test and compare their cooling tablets to our vitality water? Their product may have better medicinal effects, but we're both trying to run a business here. Are they trying to push us out of the market completely?" Simon, who had just been discharged, leaned on the sofa and sighed heavily. Yvette once developed a formula for Carefree Pills, which are more effective than the cooling tablets. Things wouldn't have come to this point if she was still around. Sheena's eyes grew round in shock. As another thought crossed her mind, she narrowed her eyes and reprimanded Simon. "It's all her fault we're in this predicament. She left us and took the philosophies of medicine with her. Now we'll have to deal with this mess." That book was passed down from generation to generation in this family. Simon didn't speak. Melissa suggested, "Why don't we ask Nora if she knows anything about pharmacology?" Sheena sneered. Nora was just a child when Yvette died. How could she possibly know anything about it? Right at that moment, Nora entered the house with Cherry. When she saw Sheena, she just nodded in her direction, planning to go upstairs to see her grandmother. Before she could head up, though, a puzzled Melissa stopped her and asked, "Nora, what do you have in that bag?"
Please subscribe to the Pocket FM YouTube channel and press the bell icon for instant notification. Check out our channel for more such exciting shows.